Welcome back, everybody, to Some Ass. I'm Adam,
And I'm Steve.
and this is the show, Adam Steve Show. We are here to talk about all things movies, including the end of movies. It's over. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Movies are done because we're going on strike, baby. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it absolutely is something that's needed to happen for some time now. The whole pay thing is ridiculous. The whole thing about AI, like trying to use background actors for their likeness, like forever, like the studio owns it after one time and they want to pay them one flat fee. That's some insane stuff because you would not have the actors you have today. Like the standards that they have now in streaming, especially with these companies, are absolutely ridiculous for both the actors and the writers. So it's a very good thing that's happening, and hopefully they get something very productive out of this by the end of it.
Yeah, I agree. I've been talking a lot about it with people within the industry, and we're all very afraid about it, especially all the big movies that are getting pushed back. And I work in movie marketing, so I'm worried about how all this is going to affect what I do and whatnot. So it's very worrisome that, and people aren't getting paid what they should get paid, and that's terrible. But hey, good stuff is happening. We are putting in the work, doing our due diligence, and hopefully we will persevere.
Yep, definitely in support of both the WGA and SAG. Hopefully they get some good stuff out of this.
Yeah, and David Zaslav, you suck. Is that his name, Zaslav?
Zaslav, I think, yeah.
Yeah, Bob Iger, you suck too. I hate both of you.
Yeah.
I will buy a steak dinner when you pass on to the next world.
Yeah, fuck them billionaire bullshitters.
Yeah, but speaking of billionaires, there was a trailer for a movie that came out recently. Unless you had anything else you want to say about the strike.
Nah, go out there and
Uh,
support them. They're not all rich, guys.
yeah, so I there was a trailer for the Wonka movie from the director of both Paddington movies, starring Timothy Chalamet, and this is a movie that I am very excited about because I love both Paddington movies. And you have not seen the trailer, correct?
I have not seen the trailer yet. I've seen the first Paddington movie. I haven't seen the second one yet, even though people say that's like one of the best movies ever made. But very excited for it nevertheless because I'm a fan of Timothy as well. So, and the pictures just made me laugh a lot because they compared him to Gonzo in the Muppets Christmas Carol, and it
Mm.
cracked me up so much.
Is that the only memes you've seen so far about this?
Yeah,
Okay, because there's a lot about like people, he's doing that like kooky kind of performance thing. And I love it because there's a part where he's like screaming about the chocolate factory. And I just think that's a really funny concept. He's like, "They'll be the greatest chocolate factory ever made." And it's like, he sounds like he's making a speech in like Dune.
that's great. That
but
makes
it,
me
but
even more excited to see it, honestly.
like there's like a sign that says no daydreaming. It's just like this whimsical, fun little thing. Did I need an origin story for Willy Wonka? No. Why? By the way, no dentist stuff in this trailer. Remember the Johnny Depp movie with Count Dooku?
Very little. I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah, I grew up with bad teeth, so that always terrified me. But yeah, so this looks great. If you hate it, I'm sorry. It's a fun little fantasy movie for families. It comes out around Christmas, and I can't wait to go see it. But that's just a movie that's coming out eventually. There are plenty of movies right here, right now, ready to talk about. What would you like to discuss first?
Let's jump in our little time machines a little bit for a movie that came out at the end of June, and that's our old boy Indiana Jones. He came back out of retirement for one more fight, and it's Indiana Jones. And what was it even called? I'm trying to
The
remember.
Dial of Destiny.
The Dial of Destiny. Yeah, that's kind of the impact it had on me, honestly. I enjoyed it for the most part, though. I can't say I didn't have fun watching it. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely has a bit more of a cohesive story, in my opinion, than Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull just was a little bit out there, especially for its time and what it tried to go for with its CGI, unfortunately. This
Mm-hmm.
one was definitely felt more in line with some of the older ones where they had more real sets and everything looked a bit more authentic, even though, of course, they have to do some CGI stuff, especially with Harrison Ford being 70 plus years old now. But for
Mm-hmm.
what it's worth, I thought it was a really fun movie. Mads Mikkelsen was a fantastic villain for me, in my opinion. I liked
Mm-hmm.
him being like the hidden Nazi type deal. They brought back in the Nazis because what's Indiana Jones without some Nazis? But
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a pretty fun time.
Mm-hmm. I really think you have very apt word choice when you said the word retirement at the beginning, because my biggest thing with this movie is I really did not want it because I don't want to see a 70, 80-year-old man go around and punch people. Like, I can't even imagine my dad punching anybody right now, like let alone my grandpa. So
Yeah.
I just think that's about it. Like we were literally complaining about this back in 2008 when King the Crystal Skull came out, saying that he's too old, and now he's definitely way too old. And you talked about like the CGI making him look younger, and I don't think that they did a terrible job on it. I just don't think that they should have done it in the first place because that entire opening sequence, while like a cool indie concept of him like trying to navigate his way through this Nazi train,
Yeah.
is like a classic indie setup. But the entire time, I'm just sitting there looking at the imperfections on his face, and I don't want to be thinking about that while I'm watching my adventure serial. And I just think that that it's kind of like that thing they say in Jurassic Park, where it's like you sat around thinking about whether or not you could, you didn't stop and think whether or not you should. So that really took me out of the movie.
Yeah, it didn't distract me too much, I guess. I was just
Mm-hmm.
kind of having fun with it. It seemed like Harrison Ford, he loves playing the character of Indiana Jones, and it seemed like he
Mm-hmm.
had a good time making this one a lot more than like, say, a Star Wars and even that last Blade Runner. It seemed like he had a lot more energy for Indiana Jones and really wanted to end it on a high note. And I think for what it's worth, I think a lot of it was tying up a lot of loose ends for his story and everything. And if they end it here, that's awesome. I really
Mm-hmm.
don't want them to continue. Like, I think this is a good ending point. If they try to push it too far, I think it's going to just be a disaster.
I actually am going to disagree. I mean, I agree that they shouldn't make any more. I agree with that. But I think that the Kingdom of Crystal Skull is a much more apt ending to his character. He goes, runs off into with his wife, and he's not passing on the torch. He is Indiana Jones. No, you're not going to take my hat, little Shia LaBeouf. And I think that's kind of perfect. He gets to have his wife. But I also think that the best Indiana Jones ending is the Last Crusade. Them riding off literally into the sunset, like that's perfect. So him, with the hat and everything. I don't know. I feel like they kind of left it open. Like they didn't close the door completely, but I just never want to see this movie ever again.
Well, and I honestly, the older he gets, I think you're going to have a harder time getting Harrison Ford to do it, especially even an Indiana Jones movie, let alone anything else.
And it's not successful, so it's like a huge bomb just because the
Yeah,
budget was so obnoxiously
I
high.
think they said it just now broke even, and that's within, I think it's the fourth week. So it's definitely like probably about to be pushed out anyway. So it just now broke even, did not make any money for the most part. So I can't see them really rushing out to make another one.
Yeah. Another couple things that you pointed out that I want to touch on is the villain being Mads Mikkelsen playing a Nazi yet again. Obviously, we are in the future or past World War II, but there's still Nazis, and that's believable because if you look around the United States today, there are also still Nazis. But no, I'm kidding. But Mads Mikkelsen is a great villain. And we knew he would be because he also played a villain in the James Bond movie, arguably the best one, Casino Royale.
I
And
agree.
knowing how many ties the Indiana Jones franchise has to the James Bond franchise, knowing that Spielberg wanted to originally direct a Bond movie, and then having Sean Connery play the father figure in The Last Crusade, obviously, like the iconic James Bond plays his dad, who
Yeah.
he feels like he has an inferiority complex to. So I think it's lazy. Like he's good, and I think he's a good villain, but I think it's lazy casting just to be like, yeah, yeah, he did that before. Do it again,
I mean, you could say it's lazy casting, but I don't know if I would have ran out to go see it in the theaters if it wasn't Mads Mikkelsen. Because for me, maybe not for everyone else in the world, but Mads Mikkelsen is a name that gets me into the theater. Like I saw that Arctic movie in theaters when it came out purely because he was in it. The only
Mhm.
reason I went to see it. So that's the kind of thing that honestly sells it for me more than just being an Indiana Jones movie.
Well, I mean, he obviously he's not a huge box office draw. I mean, he's great. Another Round is one of the best performances I've seen in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think that he did a great job, and yes, I understand why they put him there. But I just didn't feel like it's kind of like Melissa McCarthy getting casted as Ursula. It's like you really didn't think about that very much, did you? Like you put it into AI, and you just like Chat GPT. What would be a good casting for the Indiana Jones
If
villain?
if there's someone perfect for the role, why would you not put them in it, you know?
I understand. That's right. That's not my huge gripe with the movie. Another gripe I have is I like the without spoiling anything, I like the third act action set like setting specifically. I think it fits very much so with the rest of the franchise because Indiana Jones has always been a very grounded action franchise, set in like history.
Hmm.
But there's always these little like, fantasy type elements to it. There's an Ark of the Covenant, there is, the Temple of Doom and the voodoo dolls and all that. There's the chalice, the Holy Grail, and
Hmm.
Last Crusade, and then obviously not aliens, extra dimensional beings in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So the avenue that they go, it's called the Dial of Destiny. You can put two and two together. The avenue that they go to be fantastical in this movie, I think it apt and it worked. How do you feel about it?
Oh yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know if it's really spoiling too much. It's a bit to do with time travel, and
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty fun. It was something like you said, it's never the Indiana Jones is always grounded, but there's always a bit of fantasy elements to it. There's always a bit, and it still stays true to that template. It has the trapdoor stuff. It has the sillier stuff that's if you suspend your belief a little bit, it's still a fun movie and it makes a lot of sense that
Mhm.
with the motivations in a way.
I like the eels. I think that's a fun little like, yeah, they're like water snakes,
Yeah.
even though there are water snakes. But still, like that's a cool concept and a cool little set piece that and I think all the action set pieces are really good. Specifically, the parade and the Nazi train, I think were really fantastic. I do want to pose this question to you, good sir. Imagine you are watching this franchise later on in history, right? Do you feel like you'd be able to tell that this one was not directed by Steven Spielberg as opposed to the first four?
I was just about to say that. I think James Mangold did his best to almost imitate Steven Spielberg's style in this one. So it almost made it look like, I don't know, it almost took the fun out of it almost being a James Mangold movie because there's still some of like the cinematography you can tell is they're trying to be a bit bigger sometimes, maybe,
Mm.
but a lot of it they're almost trying to mimic some of Spielberg shots and everything too. Like if they would have tried a little bit harder to make it their own, it would have been cooler. But yeah, it definitely felt like almost like a fan film in a way.
Yeah, I think that he's a very good director, but obviously he doesn't touch Spielberg. Earlier, you brought up how you like this more than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I rewatched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and this is a movie that like I kind of hold in the same regard as like Batman and Robin, and that I grew up knowing it was like the worst thing ever. So then when I finally watched it, I was like, oh, this is fine. And I rewatched Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I had a really fun time with it. And if you think that Indiana Jones looks old there, Jesus Christ, he's old in Dial of Destiny. And
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mind Mutt, and I liked Karen Allen coming back, and I just really Kate Blanchett, by the way, awesome villain in that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
You brought up earlier, like what's Indiana Jones without some Nazis, and I'm like Indiana Jones, like he's more than just Nazis. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
I like Temple of Doom, how we take a left turn there. I like the Russians in the fourth movie, and I think that I understand why they went back to Nazis in this one, but I don't think he's exclusive to Nazis. And I do sympathize with the crowd that's like, oh, well, by making a movie about an older Indiana Jones, you're making him he's no longer a character and now he's like a human being. You know what I mean? Like let me explain. Like I think Indiana Jones should be more like James Bond and that he should be in that specific time, and we just keep making movies about this character, but he's not like a person. You can recast and it's just like almost like an alias. So but I think Harrison Ford, I love that he loves this character and he's so devoted to it, but I think it's to the detriment of this franchise because while I didn't want to see a Chris Pratt Indiana Jones movie, it would have been much more easy to stomach than watching this 80-year-old man, you know, fight his
See,
way out of things.
I just didn't find it that distracting. I don't know. I didn't really find his age to be that distracting, and I think they edited it enough where I didn't notice the movement as much as some other people may have. I don't know. Like
Well, when
I,
they did the face thing, I can I hear his voice. That's an old man voice. I see
yeah.
the body movements. That's an old man, like as if he did this during the movie.
Whenever they lit him up way too much, you can definitely see a lot of the imperfections. But I liked it when they kept it darker. But the voice is always going to be a thing. It's the same thing with like when they did it back with the fucking one on Netflix with Robert De Niro and all that, where they tried to make him look
The
like a
Irishman.
Yeah, they tried to make him look like he was like 30, but the dude's fucking 80 years old.
Or watching him kick someone, and you're like,
Joe,
that's an old man right
well, and Joe
there.
Pesci's like, "Hey, young man, come over here and help me." And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, well, The Irishman's much better than this, I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah,
But I don't know. I wish this movie didn't exist. I give it a solid 3 out of 5. Like I thought it was an interesting experience watching it, and just as a standalone like action movie. Like I think if you're not a fan of Indiana Jones, you'll like this more than if you are a fan of Indiana Jones.
I think I can honestly agree with that. Like, it's definitely one that is very accessible to anybody. There's not a whole lot, and it gives you all the story you need. Like, you don't need to go back and rewatch them all if you don't want to, but go back and rewatch them. Because honestly, this was before watching this one, I went back and just watched all of them in a row, and I
Mm,
hadn't actually seen Temple of Doom or Last Crusade. I'd seen a little bit of Crystal Skull before, but I just went through and watched all of them. Temple of
mm,
Doom is my favorite right now,
mm.
right next to the original, but I enjoyed all of them. Like, they're all like between 4 and 5 out of 5, or between 4 and 5. But this last one, I'd put it around like a 3, 3.5 too. It's not like the best, but it's not a bad movie by any means.
I think I cracked the code when it comes to the order in which I watch them because I watched Dial of Destiny. By the way, probably never gonna watch it again. Like if I ever rewatch the franchise, that'll be one that I like kind of throw on just to like have on after I've watched the first four. But I watched Dial of Destiny and then I was like, well, I kind of want to compare it to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So I did that second, and then I was like, all right, well, let's do the original trilogy as well. But let's just go in order in which they came out. So I think Temple of Doom is the most fun, but I definitely think it's the worst of the original trilogy, even though I love all three of those movies. And then Raiders, and then Last Crusade, because the peak Indiana Jones ending to me is him riding off into the sunset at the end of Last Crusade.
I just didn't really get into Last Crusade that much. I don't know.
Oh, I'm in the middle of it right now, and I'm adoring it. Actually, one thing I wanted to point out about this movie that I really love is like clearly I got a lot of Toy Story vibes from this movie. So you know how Toy Story is about a cowboy, wild wild west frontier action man. He's used to being the guy, the big thing, and now a new spaceman comes along and that's what everyone's obsessed with. Everyone forgets about old Woody and he feels like he has no place in his world, right? I mean, this is the
Yeah,
first Indiana Jones movie to open with the fucking Disney castle.
there's no way I was ever gonna make that comparison, but yeah, I can see it.
But I love that. I love when he's on, like, he's teaching his class and they're falling asleep, as opposed to early in his career when the women are all fawning over him, And then he's on the train and he looks down at the kid and he's got the helmet and the like space thing, and he's like, I don't really have a place in this world. So
That's
that makes me kind of like the decision he wants to make at the end of the movie, without spoiling anything.
Yeah, that's those are the parts of the story that I really enjoyed is that rather than us just being upset that he's old man Indiana Jones, they made that the story. They
Mm-hmm.
made it that he's not in touch with anything anymore. He's lost his wife, he's lost his whole life really. He's just an old man. And then
Mm-hmm.
he's brought back into it because of his goddaughter and her shenanigans.
Well, I also didn't like that they tried to make Indiana Jones relatable, because I don't think that Indiana Jones is a relatable character in any way, shape, or form. Like Indy's better than us. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're the common man. If you were put in the scenario that Indy is, where it's like, oh, I have this trinket, this artifact, and I could be a millionaire if I just, sell it or whatever. And he's like, no, it belongs in a museum,
Well, the audience that they're playing to with this is that 50 plus year old who they're kind of in their midlife crisis and they want adventure like this in a way. So that's probably what they're kind of playing towards a little bit, how I saw it anyway, is that
Oh,
they're
this
playing to those people who really want that adventure again and are lost in life right now.
this is a Liam Neeson movie with a bigger budget, like to a
Yeah.
T.
Yeah.
But so this is your least favorite? Do you like this more than King of the Crystal Skull?
I
Actually, you said.
do. I'd put it right next to honestly Last Crusade at the moment. I might change eventually, but it's right there in like that number 3, number 4 spot.
Rewatch Last Crusade for me.
I will. I will. I
I'm like,
will.
please God. I want
It was
that
my
opening
first watch of it.
sequence with the River Phoenix is so beautiful. And then he puts the hat on him and when he looks up, it's the Indiana
Yeah,
Jones today. And it's like, let's
I
go.
love that opening.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful movie, and I just love the pivots it makes from Temple of Doom too, because everyone's complaining about how Willie is this,
Well,
and she's so like spastic, and then this girl's like so like she's going through the mud and she doesn't care, you know.
and that's the thing, really. I'm pulling hairs with how I'm ranking them because they're all like within that four, little bit of three and a halfs there, but they're all like, in that range because none of them are bad. Like they're all really fun adventure movies. Like if you've never watched them, highly
Hmm.
recommend just going through them on a weekend and having fun because there's nothing really bad going on in any of
Hmm. So do you said Temple of Doom is your favorite? You think it's better than Raiders, or is it just your favorite?
them. I wouldn't say it's a better movie in any way, maybe, but it's just the one that it starts off and it's just action packed throughout and it's just silly and having fun. So I feel like it's more entertaining in a way, but I would still say that it's not the better movie than Raiders.
Hmm. So I was just looking up real quick because I know we have our box office game as well. I is a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, and so this is one of my movies, unfortunately. But 68%, and it is a bombing movie at the box office. But if we quickly check Box Office Mojo and we see how much it's making, getting killed by Sound of Freedom on the daily, if you haven't noticed. But
Damn.
145 million domestically, so I do get those 68 points, which is not going to mean much when we talk about Mission Impossible later. But we'll save that for a little bit later. Do you have any final thoughts on Indy? It's fine. It's whatever, you
No,
know?
I want to pivot just for a second. Have you seen Sound of Freedom just because you said it?
Okay, I mean, we could do the whole episode about this movie if you really
Why
want.
does I don't know a whole lot about it. I didn't know it was a fucking movie until like a couple days ago when all the stir online has started.
And this is beautiful. I love this. Thank God. This has been my life for 2 weeks. I work at the movie theater.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
And
figured
I also
yours.
didn't know this was out until I worked on it like that first Thursday, and I did an audit. And like the first showtime, I think it was like a 4 o'clock. Something like that had like 15 people in it, normal, like, whatever movie. And then the 7 o'clock, there's 200 people, just under 200 people could fit in this theater. There was 137, and it was like totally packed. And 95%, my job is to count the demographics, right? And, the age, gender, ethnicity. And 95% of the people that are there are older, white, and Hispanic people, right? Um, so that's just an observation like of the facts that I accrued over the weekend. I'm not trying to make any points. I'm just saying this is a movie that caters to older demographics, right?
Yeah,
And this did not stop being popular. The Friday, it sold out, man. Like, and then every single prime time, that's the thing. It's only the prime time showtimes on the weekdays. Like the 7 o'clock showtime sells out all the time. That crappy Fashion Square theater, I love it. I love it. I'm sorry. But that crap Fashion
yeah,
Square theater that we went to and saw Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom at,
yeah.
that sold out an 8 o'clock Saturday showtime. Like people were like had to wait outside and were upset because they weren't able to go see the 8 and they were waiting for the 9:50.
That is insane.
They love this movie, right? And then there's a thing at the end of the movie where they have like a QR code and you can buy a ticket for someone else to go see this movie because it's all about spreading awareness, about spreading the word. And I just want to make this very clear, right? Nobody in their right mind supports child trafficking.
That is the
We are all
goofiest.
against it.
That's the funniest part. It's like, why do you need to spread more? Like, everyone's aware and no one supports this shit. Like, what is the insane part about all of the fucking like, it's just crazy.
So this movie was made 5 years ago by Jim Caviezel. I'm going to give you a little history because I've been obsessed with everything around this movie, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
didn't he get fucking struck by lightning on the set of Passion of the Christ? And since then, people have like said he's crazy or something.
yeah, he's like connected like QAnon conspiracy theorist, which genuinely I don't know what QAnon means, but that's okay.
It's like
Uh,
right wing crazy people. I watched a whole documentary about it, and it's like
mhm.
bad.
Well, he's attached to it. And this was made and produced by 20th Century Fox, who was bought by Disney and shelved this movie. They tried to sell the rights over to like companies, streaming companies like Netflix and Amazon. They all passed, said we don't want to be associated with a movie like this, right? So I feel like the audience that's going to see this movie thinks it's like a political act. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm proving a point to the woke mob and the media, and because they're like, oh, the media won't cover this. And then there's some reviews on like reputable websites that are like trashing this movie, calling it like for dads with brainworms. And then people like hound these like writers, they cyberbully them, they send them death threats, and they accuse them of being pedophiles.
I think I even heard that people like just random people that write reviews on Letterbox, people that have like said that it's bad, people have like just randomly like reply to them, be like, "You're supporting all of this child trafficking, blah blah blah." And it's like, what are you talking about? It's just someone reviewing a movie. If they don't like
Mm.
a movie, it doesn't mean they support child trafficking. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh yeah, I went to go look at this movie on Letterboxd about a little over a week ago, and I couldn't even like you couldn't rate it, and you couldn't log it at all. It was there, but you couldn't log it. And I don't know if you perused some of
Mm.
these like critic sites, but Rotten Tomatoes, it's at like I think it's like 71 or like 82, somewhere in that range. So decently good movie, right?
Yeah,
But
Jeremy Johns, I think, reviewed it positively too.
yeah, oh, actually, yeah, buddy told me about that. But the audience score 99%. And then like IMDb has it like an 8.6, which would put it up there with like the Godfather movies and crap as like one of the greatest ever. And I think it's just a lot of people like, oh, it aligns with my political beliefs, so it's great. You know what I mean? It's really good. And I can't really judge because I walked out of Spiral, the Book of Saw, being like, "A cab, baby, a cab." But I don't know. It's if people, I think people should be able to see this movie, right? Because we haven't even gotten to the meat and potatoes of this whole conspiracy. Is that AMC is actively thwarting people from watching this movie. They're turning off the AC. They're messing with the it won't load or anything. The lights won't turn off. Have you heard about this?
Yeah. And the funniest part about it is like AMC's just trying to shut it down. It's like, first of all, AMC doesn't have to take the fucking movie. There's a lot of other theaters that don't have it. AMC's
Mhm.
doing you a favor. They're not trying to sabotage their own theater. Trust me, they want your money.
Mm. Yes, the movie theater industry, I promise, is not turning away any profits whatsoever. They do
No,
not care what your political beliefs are.
no.
So it's just extremely frustrating to hear people say that. And also, I work at a movie theater. I just came from there. I'm there 5 days a week. The AC always doesn't work sometimes. And it's usually in these smaller theaters. Because think about it. Theater 2 is what the theater that it's in, which in my theater, we have 20 screens, right? The 1 is the 40X, the 10 is like the big one, 11's the IMAX, 20 is also a big one that's 3D compatible. And then theater 2 is like one of the like smaller theaters. And so when it's getting packed with like over 100 like older, Floridian, like out of shape
I'll
people,
say
especially in
larger.
yeah, especially in Florida when it's 90 degrees out every single day. Yeah, it's gonna get a little hot. Like that most like iconic, like not iconic, but the most popular video of this lady trying to, I smell shit, like trying to, snuff out this conspiracy. She's like, yeah, we went to the theater in North Carolina. I'm like, you mean the red state, North Carolina, wouldn't play the Republican movie? Like,
Hmm,
get out of here. I don't know. It's a religious thing too. Like I obviously played Jesus Christ, and Mel Gibson's like the only major celebrity who will support it. But yeah,
makes
even this
sense.
past week, like Saturday, there was like a 4 o'clock showtime, 200 people in it because they moved it to Theater 7. It's gotten even more popular, and like it's funny because we talked about Ron DeSantis going after Disney, and it's like I'm happy someone's going after Disney, but I'm not happy that it's you. And
Yeah.
then similarly with this, it's like this movie is doubling the box office take of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I'm like, I'm happy something's beating a movie that I don't want to exist at the box office, but why does it have to be you? You know?
Yeah, that's the disappointing part. Like, I think I saw like the weekend box office pop up at one point. It was like number two or number three, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why is this movie just getting more and more popular? But
Yeah.
at the same time, I mean, if they're not gonna hurt anybody with it, go for it. Like if it's not, I don't know what's going on in the movie. I can't speak to it by any means. I think people have said that it's kind of graphic and what it shows a little bit, even though it's PG-13. But if they're just trying to get the point across and they're trying to say that it's bad, even though who the fuck's saying it's good? But I guess go for it, bud, and kill the just bring more money to the movie theaters is all I ask, I guess.
Yeah, right. And I one more question about this movie for you. Just the point, one more point I want to prove about it. How old is your niece?
Oh, five. She'll turn six in October.
Would you take her to see this movie? It's rated
Abs-
PG-13.
no.
Oh, well, that's interesting because I've seen endless amounts of like single age digit children, babies even coming to go see this movie. And it's like, I'm just watching these parents drag these little kids in, and I'm like, what's
No.
your angle here, dog?
No, because I'm pretty sure that they don't hold back on some stuff. Like kids get abducted and shit, and you're showing that to your kid. Like you're trying to fucking scar them for life. Like you don't want them to go outside anymore. Like what the hell are you trying to do here?
Yeah, it's really creepy and weird. I think it's perverted to bring a kid to it. I mean, I guess I could so see someone being like, well, actually, if I show them this movie, they'll know the signs of being captured and child trafficking, and they'll know, and they won't be falling for these things anymore. I don't know. I don't care. This
Yeah,
movie's
but
probably whatever.
you ruin your childhood at that point too. Like it's yeah, there's definitely double-sided coins there.
Yeah, why take them to see Spider-Verse or, Elemental when you can go
Yeah,
see the child sex trafficking movie and
yeah,
then pray afterwards?
they'll definitely learn more lessons here than they will in stupid woke Disney.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry to go off on this huge. Clearly, you triggered me here. This movie has driven me crazy. Still tonight on a Monday night, there was like over 100 people in Theater 7.
Yeah, this is a bizarre time for movie theaters. We'll say that.
I forgot what movie we were even trying to talk about.
We were on Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay. Well, what's it called? Just to get a smaller movie out of the way here, real quick, because I am having my eye on the time. I went to my second Regal Mystery movie. It was Talk to Me, and that's an A24 horror movie from these Australian directors, I think, and it's their directorial debut. And
Is that the one with the hand thing?
yeah,
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that. It looks fun.
I never saw any marketing about this movie except the poster, and the concept's cool because they tie you to a chair and you grab the hand. You say like, speak. I don't know. I let you in or what. I don't care. They say something,
Something.
and then you see like a ghost, and it kind of takes you over for like a minute, and then they like kick you out of it, and then you're good. But it's like a big drug metaphor, and it's pretty good. I feel like I would have liked this more if I was a teenager, but it has like a really weird moment with feet. That's all I'm going to say. The feet. When you watch this movie, think about feet.
I don't want to
But
do that.
well, it's decently good though. I give it a 3 out of 5. I think people will enjoy this. It's not my favorite A24 horror movie by far. Like there's much better output from them. But the ending was really fantastic, and I think you'll like this a lot more than I did. I just had a really bad. Did you ever go to the Oviedo Mall, the Regal one?
Maybe once. I think I might have saw the Mr. Rogers documentary there.
Oh, I recently watched that. That's a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah, I
documentary.
cried.
But yeah, no, I watched it there, and there was a guy he took his shoes off. By the way, if you take your shoes off in public indoors, you're weird. And
Yeah.
then he put his feet up on the chair, right. And there was a person to the right and to the left of that seat that he was putting his feet on. And then he went on Twitter. He had it on night mode though, thank God. And it was really awful. I'll say that.
No.
So watch this movie without disgusting people.
Yeah, I think I saw someone else's review recently that said someone was in a movie theater with somebody and they took their kid there that was like a toddler and they turned on the fucking cell phone and was letting them watch videos on their phone during Insidious, I think is what I saw it was. I was like, who the fuck is that bold that they're gonna take their child to a horror movie and then pull out a fucking cell phone on like full blast and turn on videos for them?
Yeah, kill me. This is why
I would
recently I
fight that
decided
person.
sitting in the third row because like I really don't mind like looking up. It's the big screen for a reason. And I just know if I'm in the third row, I'm not going to see any phones in front of me. And everyone's, especially the little teens, are going to go sit in the back. This is why I've avoided Insidious Chapter 5 because I'm afraid of teenage boys. They're monsters, man.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, we will talk about Insidious Chapter 5 now.
So yeah, just like Adam said, we're gonna talk Insidious and Insidious The Red Door. Now Adam hasn't seen this one yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the lead on this one and tell you I had some pretty fun times with it. It's not like as horrific as I would have expected, especially with some of the other movies in the franchise, but I kind of liked it for that reason. it definitely picks up where it left off with the second movie. It's a good trilogy movie. It's a good ending of the trilogy for the Lambert family because it picks up with their story. They're all definitely still seeing the repercussions and going through the fallout from the possession and everything and what the toll took on the family itself. So it's a bit of like a family drama in a way, but still some horrific scenes in it. Like there's a scene that it kind of shows it in the trailer a little bit where Patrick Wilson is in this fucking MRI machine and like the power goes out and someone who is claustrophobic and scared of the dark, I would be freaking out and it just terrified me sitting in the movie theater. So there are some scenes in there that genuinely are some of the scariest stuff, but still some really good scenes of drama and stuff. And there's some even some comedic stuff that you kind of expect from past stuff being like the two side characters, Specs and can't remember the I can't Tucker, those two comedic characters. They kind of still have that a little bit with a little side character when the kid who gets possessed goes to college, and it's kind of just all of that together. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of people that probably won't love it as much because, like I said, it's not a jump scare fest. It kind of has more of a story to it, and it wants to give you a good cap for this Lambert family that we kind of grew to love in those first two movies and then abandoned for the little prequel stuff that they did that no one really cares about. So I was a good cap to all of that. And I think that James Wan and all of them really had some really good input on it, it felt like, because it definitely felt like James Wan esque, but still with Patrick Wilson being in the director's chair, I think he was able to bring a lot of that together. And especially with him being so attached, being one of the characters in the movie, you could definitely see him caring about the family and the story a bit more.
I would love to defend the third and fourth Insidious movie, but I actually went back and rewatched the first two, which are two horror movies that are deathly important to me. Insidious was like one of my first horror, like straight up horror movies that I watched. I remember I was a sleepover with friends and I was terrified until Darth Maul showed up and I was like, haha, this is fun and silly. So actually, that's my first question for you. Do they do him justice in this?
So I think the character is cool still, but the makeup, I didn't love it as much as that original one. I think it was a bit of a step down. I think James Wan definitely just a lot of the makeup stuff in his movies, it seems like they're just so much more detailed, and it's definitely something he pays attention to a lot deeper. And it felt like that might have been a little bit on the wayside in this one, but I thought the story there with the character was still really cool. But yeah, the makeup just wasn't as frightening. But the fun fact with the first movie, actually, that I'd like to share, first
Mhm.
time I ever smoked weed, actually, was when I went and saw the Insidious movie in theaters. I was 14 years old,
Wow.
and it was the most
Wow.
terrifying movie I'd ever seen at that time because I was so stoned.
Yeah, I I remember I love the first movie so much. That was a movie me and my friends growing up really held close to our hearts. And then the second one I thought was equally as great as the first one. And then the third one, Lee Winnell directed, so it's still in the family,
Yeah.
similarly to this one. But the story is very forgettable. It's very much so just the adventures of Lynn Shay and her two little buddies. And then the fourth one, it has a lot of her backstory, which I love much legs that Lynn Shay gets in this franchise. But is she back in this one, by the way?
They used her perfectly because she wasn't in it a ton, but she is in it a little bit.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know. I will definitely be seeing it. I'm just like afraid because like I'm nervous. This kind of gives me like Saw 2 and 3 vibes where it's like, yeah, James Wan and Lee Winnell are still like attached, but like
Hmm.
they're not, they're not directing or
Yeah,
anything.
and it's good that you said that because it's like that because the first three Saw movies are honestly a good trilogy in themselves. And honestly, if you put this one next to those first two, it's a really good trilogy in my opinion.
No, I'll definitely be going out to go see it. I'm not crazy about it because it is something that I hold so close to my heart, and I probably won't even rewatch the third and the fourth one if I'm being frank.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in a while. I don't dislike those movies. They're just so far out of the way when it comes to, especially now that they've wrapped up the story of the Lambert family, like I said. The other
hmm
ones, they're like prequel movies in a way, and they're fun to get some of that story with Lynn Shay's character and seeing all the ghost hunting that she did and all that crazy stuff. But it doesn't really feel that necessary when you want to just know more about this specific demon and this specific family.
It seems like this franchise is like a jumping off point for directors because, well, obviously James Wan previously did Saw, and I think he did Death Sentence and Dead Silence in between this and the first Saw movie. But
Yeah.
I know Lee Winnell, I think his directorial debut was that third one, and then I think this is Patrick Wilson's directorial debut. So I love how like everyone associated with this franchise just like, all right, this is your trial run, and then your next thing will be like your actual like because like I love Upgrade and I
Yeah,
love The Invisible Man, and I haven't seen Cooties, but I want to see that as well.
it is good. Yeah, there yeah, it's really fun that James Wan, I think he like wants to get creative out of his friends and everything and really wants to push people and just make some really cool stuff. And I'm excited like he has this one movie that they're shooting, I think this summer with that high school kid. I think he's shooting it between like his junior and senior year of high school. He like
Mhm.
made like some YouTube stuff, like I think it was called like Dark Rooms or something like that videos. And
Mhm.
James Wan like saw he was doing stuff online and got him a movie deal basically at his
Mhm.
production company. And the kid's shooting it before he even graduates high school. So like James Wan loves to give people chances in a way. So I think it's really fun.
So, what did you rate this movie, by the way?
I gave it a 3.5. Like it's on that border where I almost gave it a 4, but it just I don't know. There were some things I didn't absolutely love about it, but nothing really nitpicky.
And where did you rank it amongst the franchise?
Um, Probably third. Like those first two are still my absolute favorites for sure, but it's probably right in the middle.
Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. Well, I will definitely be seeing it. I apologize for my lateness. I remember we were talking about this like recording a week ago, and I was like, I'll see Joyride, I'll see Pirates, I'll see. I saw so
Yeah.
many things except this, and I'll get to it though. But yeah, any final thoughts on Insidious?
Nah, I definitely recommend it though, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. I think it's a good franchise movie.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't know about you, but I am itching to talk about the king of cinema. You know, Thomathan Cruise himself in Mission Impossible 7: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Seven's not in the title, but I call it MI7 whenever I'm texting people about it. This
Dude.
is a movie that stars Tom Cruise, and he did it. He all those things you see, those are him doing them. Movies are great. How do you feel about it?
So I used to not be like a huge fan of any of it. I hadn't seen any of them until about 2018 or 2019 when that Mission Impossible Fallout movie rolled out into theaters and quickly
We
became one of
watched
my
that.
yeah, and it quickly became one of my favorite action movies of all time, honestly. Just love that movie to pieces. So when this one came out, it had some pretty big shoes to fill, but I'll be damned if it almost filled them. I wouldn't say it's as good as Fallout in my opinion, but Dead Reckoning Part 1 was still a lot of fucking fun.
Mm. I want to establish this before I say anything about this movie because, as you can tell from my intro, I'm very not much of a fan of this. 4 out of 5. It's a very good movie. It's technically a masterpiece. Like the stunts, I appreciate them so much. The dynamic that Ethan Hunt has with Luther and with Benji, and I don't remember Rebecca Ferguson and Haley Atwell's names, but it's
Uh,
all great.
yeah, I forget their names too. But
It looks beautiful. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes, but like I didn't really feel the pace if
no,
you ask me.
I think it was balanced perfectly between like the story they were trying to tell and the action. Like it bounced back and forth enough where it really kept your attention. And maybe toward the end, I was feeling like they could end it here, but do I really want them to end it here? No. Like I could keep watching it, honestly. But
Mhm.
it was a lot of fun. And there are, yeah, it wasn't a perfect movie. There was some moments where I was like, whatever. And you kind of have to like it's the same story almost every time. There's a villain and there's a clock usually, and you got to fight against the clock. And you're not really rewriting anything here. You're just kind of filling in blanks.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I was having fun watching it. I was shoveling popcorn in my mouth and watching Tom Cruise just doing crazy shit at 60 years old or whatever. It's just insane. And I think it was a really fun first movie, but it does feel like a first movie in a way too, especially how they ended it.
Actually, that's one thing I'll commend the movie on without spoiling anything. Um, in a day and age where part one movies are all of the rage, we have Fast X and Spider Verse in this exact summer that
Mhm.
end like we're in the middle of a scene. We're in the middle of an action happening, and we cut and we're like, all right, see us next year, 2 years from now, 3 years maybe, because of all these strikes. Mission Impossible does a good job of just, yeah, you can end it right here, honestly. And I'd be like, I mean, maybe not end the franchise, but like, I'm not like clamoring to see the next one. Like, oh, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, they like dropped a little bit of information, but not like a huge bombshell, like uh, when someone like a huge explosion or some shit. Like it was just like Tom Cruise got information about where he's going next, and then it ended. So yeah, it ended like honestly like a lot of action movies, even that don't have sequels, could end. Like it's just like this guy is going on another mission. Like of course he's going on another mission. That's what he does.
Which that's how most of these movies end, anyways.
Yeah.
I really love what you said about every single one of these movies is exactly the same, because I saw Rogue Nation in theaters, and then I saw Fallout with you, not in the theater. And I went back and watched 1 through 4, and then I rewatched 5 and 6, and then I saw 7 in a theater. And my favorite, personally, is I guess Fallout, because you have this thing in it. That's literally like my bar right
I
there.
love my
That's
mustache man.
yeah, I that's all I need right there, honestly. But I think the peak version of this movie is something closer to either Ghost Protocol or the, God forbid, the J.J. Abrams one, or even Rogue Nation. We do not need to be here for almost 3 hours. This should be a tight 2 hour. Like I think the first one's like under 2 hours, and it's like glory be, man, because I think these are all 4 out of 5s. I mean, obviously, I think some are better than others. I think the second one is a 3. Love John Woo, but like, oof. Every moment where you're not like this blatantly is a John Woo movie is so boring.
Yeah.
But the stunts are super cool and I respect it. And Tom Cruise is like super passionate about this franchise and in these stunts, and it goes a long way. So I really respect and appreciate this movie. And this isn't a 4 star like I gave Top Gun Maverick, where it's like, which by the way I dropped to a 3. Um, this isn't a 4 star like that where I'm like begrudgingly like, it's really good. I'm just not gonna be, it's not in my top 10 of the year so far whatsoever, and it won't be, and I will never think about it again.
Nah, and while it still had a lot of that cool action stuff, I don't think it really topped the stuff they did in Fallout. Like
Yeah.
the big helicopter stuff and everything. Like I just didn't feel as large scale in some ways. Like the train stuff was cool. I enjoyed it, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah, it just I enjoyed it still. I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any means, but it just didn't hit that same big mark.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone loves this, man, and you are quite the prophet because you picked this movie, and it's funny because in my head, this I view this very similarly with John Wick. Whereas like I don't care about the middle-aged white action man in a suit, and he's gonna beat up all the bad guys. I'm not emotionally invested in these characters or this story whatsoever. But
The world
I
is.
yeah, but yeah, the world is, and the critics are as well, and the box office is booming, and you are reaping those benefits, good sir. Because I'm pretty sure this is capping out at a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's clearly already made. It's actually already made the same amount of money that The Flash has in its entire box office run. So go ahead and chalk up those 96 points, buddy.
Yeah, that's I even though I don't even agree with it really. Like it's a good movie, but is it a 96? I don't think it deserves a 96.
Yeah, like I would be like 84. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
80, 84, even 82, like it's somewhere in that range. It's very good, but it's not a Citizen Kane need to go see it right away at all.
yeah, like I get it. I live on planet Earth, and I would also like it to keep spinning. But I am not invested in the mission. I'm not invested in anything. But the action sequences are really cool, and these are professional
Oh
actors who
yeah.
have a lot of fun. Clearly,
Tom Cruise does it again where it's like if Tom Cruise could get Oscars for stunts, that man would have trophy cases full of them because he just does the craziest shit that no one else would probably dare to do.
oh, yeah, him and Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything. Oh, there is a character who bites the dust in this movie, and I did not have any reaction whatsoever. I do not care about anyone or anything that's happening. Just jump off a building. You know what I
Well,
mean?
like
In a fun way.
and even movies like this, it's like Are they actually dead? Are they going to show up in the next movie? Who actually knows? Like, they can always just do the weirdest shit because none of these movies really have that big of stakes where everyone has to stay gone.
Yeah, this one's trying to be more realistic and serious. Like, don't get me wrong, I know I'm like the highest on Fast X out of anybody, but like I
I
would
love that
die for
shit.
Dominic Toretto. Okay,
Yeah,
Ethan Hunt, he's just doing his job.
easily this summer, if you were picking between the two, watch Fast X before watching this one, in my opinion. Like, Fast X is way more fun.
That's right, baby. Well, go watch both. Go watch everything. Go to the movies. Watch all of these. Do you have anything else to say about Mission Impossible? I'm kind of tapped.
Nah.
Um, a movie that we also both saw, a very sexy movie called Joyride, is a movie about four Asian women who go on a trip together to, I don't know, party, and it's for work, and something about a birth mother. But there's not very much riding. Like, you know, a joyride, you like drive around a car. Did they drive a car in this?
I think a little bit, I feel like. Not much, though. It's just a
Mm,
road trip movie. It's very much in the same vein as like a girl's trip or The Hangover, or it's
mm,
just a raunchy comedy with these
bridesmaids.
friends. Yeah, but there's also is the through line of the girl who she was adopted as a kid from China, and she kind of always felt ostracized in America and doesn't really fit in that well. So she always felt like she needed to prove herself and whatnot. But once she gets in this law firm, she wants to find her birth mother because they want, like, the guy she goes to meet in China really wants to know where she's from. So they go to try to
Mm.
find her birth mother in China, and it becomes one of those stories. But it's a fun movie in a way, but it's not like the funniest movie I've ever seen. I was laughing a lot more than my theater was. I took my parents to go see it, and I feel like some of the humor
Oh no.
was definitely more geared towards
Oh
younger
no.
audiences than older, because that was the whole theater too, was like 40 plus other than myself.
Dude, I literally walked out of the movie and I said, my dad would have a heart attack if he watched this.
Oh no, my parents liked it, but they didn't like it as much as I did, probably, I would say. They were fine with it.
I was laughing throughout. I think I really enjoyed, similarly to The Blackening, really enjoyed the racial humor. Like when they're going to the park at the like first scene of the movie, and then they cut to the sign that says White Hills. I
Yeah.
burst out laughing in my theater. That was hilarious. And then I love when like Roy from The Office, and they're like, "Are you guys Asian?" And he's like, "Yes." It's like, "Oh, thank God." Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That
Yeah,
was hilarious.
there were a
And then
lot of
the douchebag guys that she works with, I really love that dynamic. How like he was aggressively like
yeah.
inclusive.
Yeah, there were so many parts where it was poking fun at their own race and poking fun at white people and how overly like sensitive they are to some things and trying to defend racist things and different shit like that. And a lot of the humor made me laugh quite a bit, and especially the two friends that made me laugh the most were her actual like best friend or whatever. I forget what her name was, but and also the Deadeye girl, and her like her
Deadeye.
deadpan humor was just hilarious. Like, this girl, I hope she does more comedy stuff because it was just cracking me up throughout the movie.
Yeah, she was definitely my favorite character, and honestly, I felt like she was the heart of the movie. I
Yeah,
actually will echo what you said. I think one of the most, I know it's a comedy, so it's not like trying to be like about things, but I do like the whole like, oh, she, doesn't feel like she belongs with white people because she's Asian, but she also doesn't feel like she belongs with Asian people because she was raised in white culture. So like, feeling that like lack of identity. Yeah, I know. I really enjoyed her journey there. I mean, it does slow down in the third act when this movie tries to become a movie, and it really wraps up really quickly. But I
yeah,
think it's a really good time, and if it seems like the kind of thing that you'd enjoy, then I think you'll go out and have a ball with this. I gave it a 3 out of 5, not a 4 because yeah, I kind of lost steam at the end for me, but it's a fun and funny movie.
yeah. I gave it around a 3.5. I think enjoyed it quite a bit, and I think this is one that I would definitely recommend. Like, get a group of friends together, especially if you're a lady and have a group of lady friends. This would be one that's a lot of fun. That I think get them all together, have a glass of wine, and just have some good laughs together. And it's one of those. It's definitely like a friendship movie, but also it has that heart to it with the through line of trying to find your identity too.
It's for the girls.
Absolutely.
But yeah, very fun, very good little comedy, studio comedy movie, and people are going out to go see it, which I'm really happy about.
And another studio comedy that people have been running out to go see too, our lady Jennifer Lawrence has gotten in there with her raunchy comedy, and that is No Hard Feelings. Now, you got to see this one before me, so why don't you lead us out?
Yes, I did. So this is a studio comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence, and this is awesome because how often do we get studio comedies with big A-list celebrities? I mean, we forget how big Jennifer Lawrence was. Not only does she headline major franchises like The Hunger Games, which is returning this year with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but we also got her in the X-Men franchise and the really good ones like First Class and Days of Future Past. But
Yeah,
she's also an awards contender regularly, with Silver Linings Playbook being her big win, but also other good movies like American Hustle and Joy. And she's a very Winter's Bone. She's a very good actress.
yeah,
So, seeing her here, I really loved her performance. It's one of my favorite female lead performances of the year because not only is she absolutely hilarious, but she carries the dramatic moments in this movie. And there's one scene in particular that was wildly, wildly impressive. It is the beach scene. And so just to go off on that for a second. So I was 13 at one point, and the type of movie like this, is the type of movie where you're looking for something to happen, and the beach scene delivers. But it's not just like, oh hey, naked lady. It's more than that. You know what I mean? Like I definitely was like, yep, that's Mystique right there, because it's also like an action scene, and it's
yeah.
also really funny, and it just works on so many different levels, and it's not just like exploitative like some other movies like this would be.
No, yeah, that moment specifically, I knew it right then and there. I was like, I want Jennifer Lawrence to be in a lot more comedy because she nails it. Physical comedy, got it. Just comedic chops, has it. Back and forth dialogue and everything, and just it feels like she could easily not need a script. Like she could just come up with stuff off the top of her head and it would still be hilarious. Like
Mhm.
improving all the time.
Oh yeah,
She,
all the interviews that she does are great.
yeah, and like when you see those interviews and you see this movie, it feels like she's almost genuinely playing a bit of her personality in there because she's just like a fun-loving, quirky, just goofy kind of gal. And in this movie, although she is a bit more run down, maybe you would say, and kind of beaten down by life and experienced a lot of bullshit,
Mhm.
she still has a lot of heart to her, this character does, and it's very touching. And the kid in the movie that's playing the 19-year-old, in a
Mhm.
way he almost reminded me of Drew Gooden, especially the way he talks and his mannerisms in a way, and it made
Mhm.
me laugh a lot. But he's also like the way he's playing this character of being like very shy and just not knowing how to really be social that much. He played that perfectly, and he was cracking me up almost as much as Jennifer Lawrence.
Mhm. Yeah, he was really great too. He played Evan Hansen after Ben Platt on stage.
I did not
And
know that, but that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, imagine if they would have made the movie and he would have played him, because he actually looks like a high schooler,
Yeah,
unlike
that
30-plus-year-old Ben Platt.
that would have actually been really good.
Yeah, I thought he was really great in it too. I actually really like Matthew Broderick as well. It's nice to see him back and doing things. But yeah, this movie's wildly funny throughout, but yeah, it has a decent amount of heart, and I feel like it's a really good date movie. It's good to see movies like this coming out in theaters, and everyone seems to be really liking it.
Yeah, especially with it being a studio comedy, like I'm happy the box office is doing pretty well too, because a lot of comedies through the last few years, you get every once in a while, you get those big hits, but a lot of them usually fall by the wayside and people usually catch them on streaming and everything, but they don't get the box office or notoriety that they really deserve. So it's
hmm
nice to see one like this finally getting the attention.
And well, there was a couple like little like controversial things about this movie. So first of all, here's one that I had going into this movie. I was like, oh, so the joke is that this young man who seems to have no interest in having sexual relations with this woman, and that's the joke. Ha ha, he doesn't want to have sex with this obviously attractive woman. Like clearly, like he's probably like asexual or something, and we're making fun of him because he doesn't have that desire in him. And I would like to say, after watching the movie, that's not something that I think people should be worried about after seeing it, because it's clear that it's not because he's like not interested in sex whatsoever. It's that just that he's more of a romantic, and I really enjoyed
That
that.
and not to go into any spoilers, but it's a thing that happens to a lot of people, I think, and it's the bullying and the stuff like that. It really hurt his development socially, so he's very awkward in his mannerisms, and even trying to even flirt with her when you can see he's trying to flirt, it just feels so awkward and weird because he just doesn't understand human connection in a way because he
Mm.
basically was pulled out of high school and didn't really develop in that way. It's very interesting
Mm.
to think about in some ways after watching it too, just looking back at it.
Mm. And the other thing that people are talking about is that, like, well, what if it was the other way around and it was a 30-something-year-old man who was actively coming after a freshly 18-year-old girl? And my answer to that is, you're right. Good thing that's not the movie we watched. We
Yeah.
watched a movie about a 30-something-year-old woman who got with an 18-year-old boy,
And it's a movie. It's not real. You don't have to worry about it.
and a comedy at that, you
Yeah,
know?
it's not trying to make a point. It's just
Mhm.
trying to make you laugh, like it's being silly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this. Actually, it's squeaked into my top 10 being a 4-star movie for me because I think I've only have like seven something 5-star movies. So a few 4-star movies are currently in there right now. And I just really appreciate and respect a movie like this coming out. So it's up there for me. Yeah, it's above Mission Impossible. That's right, Tom.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 star too. I definitely recommend checking it out if you have the time.
Awesome. Speaking of, we were talking about a movie starring some Asian people before, and I have another movie about a couple of Korean people called Past Lives. This is we talk about 5-star movies. This is one of my 7 5-star movies on the year. This movie is absolutely beautiful. You haven't seen this movie, have you?
No, but I think I don't even know if it even has a showtime anymore. It's probably gonna be pulled by the weekend, especially with Barbie and Oppenheimer coming out. So I probably will have to wait for it to come on streaming or something.
Oh yeah, it's not in my theater anymore. Yeah, but it's a fantastic movie. It is like half of it's in subtitles, but you're not worried about that. But I really love the way that this is shot. I love the performances, and I love the meaning behind it. You know what I mean? Because this movie, like, it invokes many different reactions. It's very sad. Like my girlfriend came out of it like extremely sad, and I was like, nope, that just all makes sense to me. Like
So
I'm like generally sad, sure, but like 1 + 1 = 2, you know?
yeah, did you see Drive My Car last year,
Yes.
the year before? Is it similar in that vein?
No, not at all. Not
So
one bit.
but it's just sad is the only similarity.
Yeah, it's instead of being over 2.5 hours, it's just under 2 hours. I think it's like an hour and like 47 minutes, something like that. Also, it's a romance, you know what I mean? Whereas Drive My Car was more of like it's about like grief and depression,
Yeah.
whereas this is more about like for example, it's about this young Korean girl and her family decides to move to America, so she has to leave her best friend, who's this little Korean boy. And we fast forward about 12 years later. It kind of reminds me of the Before trilogy. Have you ever seen those movies?
I'm aware of them, but I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, they're beautiful. I just bought the Criterion, and I'm not even a Criterion guy, but it was a birthday present to myself. But yeah, it's kind of like that, where it's like we're checking in on these two people, like every so many years,
Oh,
and seeing how they change and how the relationship change is over time. The movie does get really meta at a certain point in the middle, and it kind of threw me off for a second, but I like the direction that it goes because you really thought it was going to be this standard thing. I feel like this movie's a lot about stereotypes too, specifically aimed at white people here, which it like preys on your stereotype. Like you thought this was gonna happen, didn't you? And it's really effective. This movie is really super touching, super sweet, and super sad. And I had a great, wonderful time. It's currently, I think it's my fourth favorite movie of the year, ahead of Blackberry, but behind Fast X. Do that math.
I haven't seen Blackberry yet either, but I'm very much
Oh,
looking forward to this movie now though, because this sounds really, really good.
yeah, it's fantastic. Blackberry is really good as well. If you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Glenn Howerton is fantastic, and honestly, it might be my favorite Jay Baruchel performance as well. But it's a Matt Johnson movie, and I would just like to recommend. Have you seen The Dirties?
I don't think I'm familiar with them.
Oh, I beg and plead for you to watch The Dirties. This is Matt Johnson's first movie that he made. He almost wasn't able to make it. It's just costs a few $1,000s, I think, like super low amount of money. And it's about two friends who are making a movie about a school shooting, and it is super funny. It's a comedy. Don't worry. But it is super interesting and has one of my favorite movie endings of all time. I was literally floored by it. It's very short, under 90 minutes. and it really gives you a glimpse inside the mind of who Matt Johnson is, because Blackberry is more of a narrative feature, whereas like, you know, the Dirty's more of like a mockumentary, similar to Operation Avalanche's second movie. But
Right.
yeah, definitely watch Blackberry. It probably is already out on like not streaming, but like you could probably get it on VOD or pirate it or something like that.
Yeah, I'll look for it. 'Cause, yeah, that's definitely I want to see it for sure. Same with that Tetris movie too. I forgot that came out this year until
Oh
recently.
yeah, Apple TV Plus movie. It was really fun. It's in that, yeah, they're both in that same vein where it's like, oh, it's a biography about a company, and but the BlackBerry is much better than Tetris, because Tetris is like, oh, how a successful company came to be.
Yeah.
BlackBerry is about the rise and fall of a
Yeah.
successful
I
company,
didn't even think about the
specifically the
fall at
fall.
first. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they really. Oh my God! Speaking about great endings, the ending of BlackBerry. Oh, that's like a gut punch. That movie is honestly, it reminds me a lot of The Social Network.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Hmm.
definitely gonna check it out real soon then.
So rapid fire. What other movies we got here we wanted to talk about? Any theatrical movies? Don't see The Boogeyman. It's not good. I didn't like it.
Yeah, have not seen it. Don't really plan to. I'd probably catch it on VOD or whatever eventually.
Hmm.
The only movie I saw recently wasn't in theaters, but I finally caught The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. I watched it this afternoon actually.
Hmm.
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would because I tried to watch it originally when it came out and I caught it the very last day on HBO Max 'cause it was during all the pandemic bullshit and I
Hmm.
fell asleep watching it and wasn't able to finish at that time and then tried to watch it again not too long ago and fell asleep. So I tried to watch it during the day this time and yeah, I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I think it's like the same director as like The Nun and La Llorona, which aren't the best movies in the Conjuring universe. So I wasn't too geeked to know that that was the director, but this is by far the best movie of those, I think, when especially when it comes to how it was filmed and everything. Like it's one of the crispiest movies. Like it still has some of the James Wan touches that he like kind of made in this Conjuring universe, but the scares are really good. Like the waterbed thing really freaked me out, honestly, in a few different moments that really
Hmm.
kind of got to me when it came to the visual scares. But the story isn't all that great, and it's definitely like almost like old man. They're almost playing old characters already, which was kind of funny in a way because they don't look old at all.
Hmm.
But like Patrick Wilson had a heart attack at one point and stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a fun movie. I don't. I thought it was people like kept making the joke that it was more of like all in the courtroom and everything, but it's not at all. It's
I
actually
wish it
still a horror.
was.
It's still a horror movie. I liked it.
I'm happy. I'm all power to you. I lose by not getting to like it. I wish I liked it. I'm at like a 2 out of 5 probably. I don't remember much of anything about it. I saw it in theaters. I remember not liking it. I think it's a silly, very silly movie in a franchise that has ran its course,
Well,
and I do not like it.
at least technically, it is very good though. I will give it that especially. Like it's filmed very, very well.
I have zero memory. I have no
If you saw
idea.
an IMAX, you really should remember because it was shot for IMAX and it looks like it was shot for IMAX. Like it's genuinely like really, really good.
I could look up my letterbox. I have
No, I'm pretty
no
sure I
memory of
looked and you
this
did give it
thing.
a two. I think you said you fell asleep in the middle of it, if I remember. I think I read that
Yeah, well, hey,
earlier.
the devil made me do it. What can I say?
But but
But
honestly, I can see that because I also kept falling asleep within like the first 20 minutes, and it wasn't because I was bored though. It was just because I'd get so fucking tired.
I'm just a sleepy little guy. Other movies that are out, Asteroid City is good. I think you should see it before the end of the year. It's Wes Anderson,
Yeah,
so it's super well technically made. It's
I'm a
also
big
like what?
I'm a big Wes Anderson guy, so I definitely still want to check it out. I just haven't had the time yet.
Oh, it's a very Wes Anderson movie. So I think you'll really enjoy this one. I think his head is really far up his ass, which I really like when filmmakers' heads are up their butt. But it's like
Espe-
a story within a story, like, kind of like the Grand Budapest, but it's framed as like Edward Norton is like writing a play, and the play is Asteroid City, and I'm just, I enjoyed hanging out in Asteroid City for 100 minutes with these like kooky, funny little characters. But this was a one and done for me.
I have a feeling I'm really gonna love it because I watched that Bottle Rocket movie recently too, like his first feature, and
Mm.
that was might be one of my favorite ones now. Like Grand Budapest was pretty high up there, but that movie was incredible. Definitely recommend that one if you haven't seen it yet.
Anything else? Last chance.
Urban Legend. Urban Legend. I just watched it recently. It's basically a Scream ripoff from 1998 with Jared Leto. I thought it was really, really good, honestly. It's very silly. It has a lot of horror trope commentary stuff like Scream. It's very much a Scream ripoff, but I still
Mhm.
recommend it. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. My final recommendation will be for the Transformers, the movie from 1986. Not only does it have the most kick-ass soundtrack ever, but like I even knew the spoiler, the big spoiler going into it, and I thought it was awesome. That was like my favorite movie I've seen since Freaks. If you haven't seen Freaks, see Freaks. Have you seen Freaks?
Is that no, I haven't. I've heard of it though.
Yeah, from like film history, like 1932.
Oh, wait, no, no, no. Yeah, I have. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, super like offensive movie, but I think it's wildly interesting, and I absolutely loved it. It's
Well,
one of my favorite first watches of the year.
it's not really offensive though because it was made to kind of like show how shitty the circus was to those people and stuff like legitimately like people that had deformities and stuff they were like abused by circus people and stuff like PT Barnum and shit.
It's a hard watch. That's all
But
I'll
it's yeah,
say.
it's very
It's a
weird, it's
very
very
hard movie to.
disturbing, but it has a lot of influence on the horror genre specifically. And like the
Mhm,
whole Google Gobble thing, like that's literally like so many times been troped in so many different shows and movies and stuff. But yeah,
mhm.
it's very weird, but very fun to watch at the same time, just how weird and disturbing it gets, for especially being in the 30s.
And movies are usually fun and weird to watch, and I love watching them. I am Adam. You can check me out at Hard Reviews. I've got some new ones. I did a big long one about Flash where I talk about why I'm the only person in the world that likes it. Steve.
Yeah, film fan reviews for me. I got a couple new videos for all the movies we've been talking about. I might have one for Joyride and No Hard Feelings. I haven't recorded, haven't edited it yet, so that might be coming towards you soon. But I'm also seeing Barbie on Thursday, so keep an eye out for that.
Awesome, cool, and keep loving movies, guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, see ya. Keep watching all those movies.